got it.
We're live.
Okay. Well, let me just see if people are coming over.
All right. We are live though.
Can you give me the link again for them to come?
Yep. I see in the bottom right, there is a link spot. So I'm going to copy and paste that over to you. That is for the event page. That's so they can ask the Q&A. If they're unable to join on the events page, here is the YouTube link.
Okay, one person is in.
We have 2 viewers. Hi, everyone.
Okay. You need to send me the YouTube one.
I did.
Oh, got it. So that I can send it to Kelly. Kelly. Okay, what is Tony saying here? Still nothing, and I have Hangouts. Okay, we have 2 viewers. Can we see which viewers they are?
No.
Okay, we are.
They need to make sure they're using the new link. The old link won't work. Dee, I think you have muted yourself.
I have what?
Okay, you're there now. I couldn't hear you for a minute.
So this one is for sure the Google Events.
Yes, it is plus.google.com events, and there's a link. This is all live right now.
Where is the YouTube one?
I sent that to you already.
Carrie King, use this. Okay, Jenny can see us. Good. At least someone can.
Hi, Jenny.
So this is like crazy. This is our first class on Google Hangouts, and so we apologize that this has been crazy. I'm just going to wait and see. We got 3 viewers. It won't tell us how many people are on YouTube, right?
Right.
Okay. So I'm just going to do a quick okay, so we have questions along the side. So now we have 5 viewers. We're getting better. Okay. 6 viewers. It appears to be working. I told people to close their browser and start again. So it appears that it is working. Okay. Now I'm going to be flipping back and forth to Facebook, answering questions on that thread, as well as trying to do questions and answers along the side here. So it looks like we have a few, yeah, I think we're good to go. Tony is not, where is the YouTube link?
Did
We
you put
just
that
have to
on
get
Facebook?
Tony on the, yes. Oh, and Carrie's here. You like my eyebrows, Carrie? Okay, so it looks like a few people are on YouTube. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started because otherwise we're gonna run out of time because I talk a lot. So what's gonna is first of all, I am going to switch to present to everyone, which locks me on your screen. There is a question and answer if you manage to get into the Google Hangouts. There is a Q&A little button on the left-hand side of your screen that you can click, and it'll open up on the right-hand side of your screen. You can ask questions there. If you are on YouTube, you can go ahead and use that thread in the Smarty Skirts group to ask questions there. So we're going to try to get through this in as little time, as we can. It is hard because there is a lot of information to cover, but we're going to do our best. So just a kind of rough outline of the night. I'm going to talk about Disney Cruise Lines, and then my little sister, Bethany, is going to talk about Disney World. I'm going to interject a little bit probably in Disney World because I have a lot of opinions on Disney World as well. And then I'm going to talk really briefly, if we have time, I am going to talk about Disney Paris, Disney Hong Kong, Disney Tokyo, and Aulani. Just really briefly about those. There is also something called Adventures in Disney that I might talk just a little bit on at the end of the night, but that's kind of a rough outline of the. I look like I'm looking away. Oh, yeah, look, it looks like we've got quite a few people, so that's perfect. Okay, so I'm going to talk for a minute about why I love Disney so much. So I have actually lost track of how many times I've been to Disneyland, legitimately lost track. I think I've been probably about 12 to 15 times, somewhere in that area. I have been to Disney World 3 times, and I have been on, I want to say 3 Disney cruises. Part of the reason that I love Disney so much, and I can't often tell this story without crying, but I'm from a blended family. So my mother married my stepfather when I was about 7. And I had 2 sisters, an adopted brother, and 2 stepbrothers, 6 of us within 7 years. And blending a family is nothing in real life like it is on TV. And so it was a really difficult couple of first years when my parents were married. But when they married, they promised us kids that they would take us to Disneyland and Disney World at some point in our childhood. And when I was 9, we flew to California from Grand Prairie, Alberta. We flew to California and we went to Disneyland the first time. Now, anyone who's blended a family knows it's really hard. There's a lot of fighting. There's a lot of back and forth, different things. And I didn't really get along with my brother so much at first and different things like that. But I will say the moment that we walked into Disneyland, we were suddenly a family for the first time. We held hands, we rode rides, we ate food together, we sang together, we danced together. And I think that that's why, see, I'm getting all teary. That's why Disneyland means so much to me, because it truly is the most magical place. It is the happiest place on earth, and it is the most magical. And so that's why I love Disney so much. So I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about Disneyland, the layout of the parks, what to expect, and all of that. The other reason I love Disneyland so much is I absolutely adore Walt Disney. I think as a businessman, as a person, he was an absolutely incredible person. What he has done with Disney is absolutely inconceivable. I mean, Disney literally owns the entertainment industry in every way, shape, and form. It has revolutionized the way businesses connect with their customers. It is just the most incredible business model out there. And so when I go to the parks, my experience comes from that place of having a wonderful memories there as a child. I was engaged in Disney. We found out actually we were pregnant, my husband and I, when we were visiting Disney. We went to Disneyland right before we got married. My son is 7, and I think he's been to Disneyland 9 times. He's been to Disney World twice, and he's been on 2 Disney cruises. So we have done a lot of Disney traveling. So the information I'm going to give you tonight has to do more with tips and tricks from what I have learned. Not, I'm not a travel agent. I'm not paid by Disney to say any of this stuff. I wish I were. But I'm just sharing my tips and tricks of things that I have learned in the times that I have. Kelly, don't post that, please. Like, really? In the times that I have been there. So we're going to start talking about Disneyland. I'm going to show you, you know, if we were doing this live, I would have all of this fancy schmancy on a big screen, but I don't. So tonight I'm going to do the best that I can. I'm going to show you a map of the area around Disney World Disneyland. I'm talking about Disneyland in Anaheim, California. If you are going to be my friend on any level, you will never refer to the Disneyland in California as Disney World, and you will never refer to the Orlando Park in Florida as Disneyland. They are totally separate. My hair is crazy. They are totally separate, and so I am referring to Disneyland in California. Disneyland in California opened in 1955. Last year was its 60th anniversary. It's actually into this year, so July 17th, 1955. Now, when Disneyland opened, it was just orange groves around. There was nothing. It was, I think it was about 45 minutes from Los Angeles proper, and so there was nothing around it. Basically, Disneyland, all of the community around came as a result of Disneyland. So this is really what the map looks like of the area in Disneyland. This is not going to be really pretty, but I want to point out a few things. Disneyland Resort is actually 3 separate sort of entities. It is the Disneyland Park, which is the original park that, you know, opened in 1955. It is that's kind of this area in here. Well, here. Then it is the California Adventure Park that was added in the early 90s. And that is a separate amusement park. And then it is the new, I believe they've just changed the name to from Downtown Disney to Disney Springs. I'm not entirely sure. But that is a whole shopping area over, no, I lied to you. It's over in here. Okay, so I want you to get a sense of this because I'm going to talk about the Good Neighbor hotels. And the way that Disneyland is laid out is its hotels kind of all in this area here. There's more of a freeway here. If you get up into here, Angel Stadium is up in here. A lot of people want to take a night away from Disney and go to Angel Stadium, and that's a really easy ballpark to visit because it is so close to Disneyland. So, when you go to Disneyland, there are 3 hotels that are Disneyland hotels. They are Disney hotels on property that you can stay at. They are the Paradise Pier, the Disneyland Hotel, and the Grand Californian. They are expensive, sort of in that order. The cheapest hotel usually to stay at would be the Paradise Pier, then the Disneyland Hotel, and then the Grand Californian. I get asked a lot whether it is worth it to stay on property. It is. I will say that. You just are immersed in Disney magic from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to bed. I do believe that if you are going to go one time and only one time to Disneyland, that you should save the money and go to one of the Disney hotels. There's different perks that you get for staying on property. If you can stay at the Grand Californian, I've never stayed there, but if you can, you have a shortcut into the park and things like that. Staying on property is just that much more magical. So if you are only going to go to Disneyland one time in your life, I would save the extra money. It's about an extra $600 difference for a week to go to Paradise Pier as opposed to some of the higher end Good Neighbor hotels. So the Good Neighbor hotels are hotels that Disney has made an agreement with in the area. So you oftentimes get your package with your hotel and your tickets all together. You also get extra perks for staying at those Good Neighbor hotels. You can usually trust that they're going to be clean and they're going to be close and they're going to be relatively safe. The area around Disneyland is fairly safe to walk. It's not really dangerous. You could stay at a hotel 2 blocks away and walk no problem. At midnight when the park closes, you don't have to worry about that, especially when you're staying at a Good Neighbor hotel. If you get much farther, I will say this, if you get much farther than about 3 or 4 blocks, it does get a little sketchy in that part of Anaheim. So just be careful if you're trying to save a few bucks and you're gonna go down much further past, say, Catella or past Harbor, that you may get into a little bit of sketchy area late at night. Even on Harbor Boulevard, which is the main road out in front, I've seen some kind of sketchy stuff late at night. So just be kind of aware of that neighborhood is still in Los Angeles. So when you fly into Disneyland, you have the choice of flying into LAX or flying into Orange County. Orange County is the closer airport, and you will get to the parks faster. You can usually fly into Orange County for the same price as you can fly into LAX. So just check the scheduling of that. From Calgary or Edmonton, you can be leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning and be in the parks by noon. And that's usually how we fly. We have found that Orange County, we fly mostly on Aeroplan points. We find that we can get space better into Orange County. The other thing that we have done a lot, that if you're only going to go to Southern California once in your life, fly into Orange County and out of San Diego or vice versa, and then take your rental car and drive it. That is a really cool trip. There is, they're not called Magical Express in Disneyland. It's escaping my thought process right now. But there are shuttles from LAX and Orange County directly to each of your hotels. So you don't have to worry about flying in and renting a car if you're just going to Disneyland. There are dog kennels. Little known fact, there is a dog kennel on property in Disneyland, so you can take your dog. Jenny Jerzak was asking about camping. There is camping. I'm gonna just show this map again. I have to think about. It is over in this area here that the camping is. There is a campground there. There is another one further down. I'm just trying to think of how this is laid out. I want to say it's further down in this area here. There are a few of them around, and you can camp in Disneyland. In Disney World, the camping is right on property. In Disneyland, it's not. So you would just drive and camp. But there are dog kennels. So if you had a dog and needed to take your dog and you didn't want to leave him, say, in the motorhome all day, you could kennel him at the Disney parks. There is a Walmart fairly close. So some of the things that I've done is go and get, say, breakfast food, get some yogurt and have a fridge in your room. You know, they're $15 a night or whatever to add a mini fridge. Get some granola bars that you can take into the park, get some water. Usually what we try to do is eat one meal in the hotel, which is usually easiest breakfast. You can actually, if you if you catch something called the Super Shuttle, and you might want to write this down. If you catch the Super Shuttle, included in your ticket is one stop between there and Disneyland. So you can make a 20-minute stop at Walmart and have them drop you off to get some granola bars and snacks and stuff like that to keep in your fridge. And you are allowed to take food into the park. That's another question that I get asked a lot. You can take food into the park. There is an IHOP. In fact, there's actually 2 that are pretty good to eat at. There are along this Harbor Boulevard here. There's IHOP. There's Cat & Jack's, which is like a seafood buffet. There's quite a few restaurants along in there that are very easily accessible to leave the park, go eat, and come back. Lots of the hotels have little restaurants. Most of the Good Neighbor hotels have a nice big continental breakfast. Most of them have waffle makers and stuff like that. So there really is no need to run anymore and get snack food, but if you wanted it, you do have that option. I'm going to show you really quickly what the Disneyland park kind of bird's eye view looks like. So this is sorry, these maps are horrible, guys. I apologize. So it is Disneyland. There is a little bit of a plaza courtyard area in between, and then there's California Adventure. Over here is the downtown Disney, and then the Disneyland property hotels are kind of in this area here. There is security that you have to go through, and your bag will be checked. That shocks a lot of people, but it was only 3 weeks ago that they caught someone trying to take a gun into Disneyland. So there is checkpoints now, security checkpoints that you have to go through, and your bag will be checked every time going in and out of that main plaza area between Disneyland and California Adventure. You're not checked again going into the parks, but you are before you get into that main plaza area. Basically what downtown Disney is, just quickly, because I don't really want to talk about it much after this. Downtown Disney is kind of a shopping nightlife area of Disneyland. And what is there is Rainforest Cafe, the ESPN Sports complex. There's quite a few nice little restaurants, American Girl shopping, Lego store. There's a lot of street performers. It's a great place to go at night because there's a lot of artists that gather there. It's a lot of fun to just kind of wander through, lots of ambiance. There's a Starbucks coffee there. That is also the largest Disney store in the world, at that downtown Disney area in Disneyland. So if you need to kind of wander through the shops inside the park, I will say that that can be an experience in itself. But if you really are looking for something and you want to know for sure that you're going to find it, you're going to find it in that Disney store. It's open, I think it opens about an hour before the parks, and they stay open about an hour after the parks. So if you're looking for something and the parks are really jammed, it might be just worth your time to just walk over to downtown Disney. Downtown Disney has a lot of, like in the wintertime, they put an ice skating rink, which is kind of cool for Canadian kids to see ice in Los Angeles that you can actually skate on. There's all sorts of outdoor shows and stuff that they do in that area. So it is really worth a walk through the downtown Disney area. Okay, so I'm going to really quickly talk about kids with special needs. So most of you would know that my son has recently been diagnosed with Asperger's, which is a form of autism. And people ask me how he does in the parks. I think I indoctrinated him so early that he doesn't really have a problem with Disney. He doesn't like crowds anywhere else, but Disney seems to be okay for him. But not every child is like that. So you do have the ability. Disney is amazing at recognizing families with special needs. Now, they can't close the park down for us, but they can do the best that they can. So if you are going to Disneyland, you are going to want to stop in at City Hall, which when you walk into the parks is on your left-hand side, and it's very clearly labeled. You'll see it. You can ask anyone where City Hall is, and they'll tell you. That's where you would go, and they can, based on your needs and your child's needs, give you passes so that you don't have to wait so long in the lines. Be very careful, though. This program has been taken advantage of many times, and they've had to shut it down and open it up under new iterations because people take advantage of it. So just keep in mind that if your child can handle it, they should. There are some other ways to do it. You can do single rider lines. So how those work is, for example, my husband, we all wait in the line. My husband gets a special tag. He rides it. I wait and jump on as soon as he's off, so I don't have to go through the line again if it's a ride that my son won't ride. You can go to City Hall, like I say, children with autism, any sort of special needs. If your child's in a wheelchair, if your child needs any sort of issue. I've even heard diabetic children. They can give you special passes to get on the rides. So just know that City Hall is the place to go. In California Adventure, it's a slightly different place, but it's actually in exactly the same location geographically. It's called Guest Services, and you just walk in, and it's on your immediate right. There's lockers, and then there's the Guest Services area. And you can go there and talk about all sorts of things. If you need a stroller, if you need a wheelchair, if you need a power cart, all of those things are also available at the parks to get. If you are going to the parks more than 3 days, you're going to want to actually go buy one at Target or Walmart and take it to the parks instead of renting one of theirs, because it becomes cost prohibitive. And there is a program in both LA and Orlando where if you leave a stroller in a hotel room around those parks, they will give it to, they will donate it to charity. So if you've taken if you've gone, you've bought a stroller, you've used it for your time in Disneyland or Disney World, and you leave it in your hotel, they will donate it. So just keep in mind, any sort of special needs issue, if you need to know where the nursing room is, if you need to know anything, those are going to be your areas to go. First thing on your right hand side in California Adventure, first thing on your left hand side when you go into Disneyland. That's also if your child has to meet a character and you don't know where they are or where they're going to be, that's where you go. You tell them, you know, I need to see Peter Pan. Now I have heard stories, and this is why I love Disney, I have heard stories where Peter Pan has not been scheduled to appear that day, and someone has gone and said, this is our last day in the park, my son hasn't seen Peter Pan, and they've actually dressed a cast member and brought Peter Pan out. So it can be very magical. That is the place to go for any sort of, I have a wish, whatever. The other things that you can get at City Hall are special badges. So if it's your birthday, if you're celebrating an anniversary, if it's your first visit, if you just got married, anything like that, they'll give you a special button that you can wear. And cast members interact with you a little bit more. Just so you know, employees in Disney are not called employees, they're called cast members. So little trick, no matter what time of year I go, I wear a birthday button at least one day of my trip, because they wave at me in the parade. They have to wish me happy birthday. They have to talk to me. They have to say my name. A cast member, if they see my button, has to say my name and interact with me. And it becomes really fun in the parks because it is a nice way to identify other people and talk about the things that they're celebrating too. So there's family reunion buttons, there's just married, there's anniversary, there's first visit, all kinds of buttons. So if you're interested in that, that's the place to go at City Hall for those. I'm going to talk really quickly about fast passes and photo pass. So lines get long in Disney. There is no quiet time anymore in Disneyland. There is a very brief quiet time in Disney World, but there is no longer a time in Disneyland when the lines are not insanely long. I'm just going to tell you that. It just doesn't happen anymore. You're going to wait for lines or for rides, and that's okay. But what they've done is they've created a system whereby you can fast pass, or you can get onto the rides faster than waiting in the regular line. In Disneyland, you can only hold one fast pass at a time, and only certain rides have them. So for example, Space Mountain has a fast pass. You can go fast past that line. It gives you this little ticket that tells you when to come back, and you can basically walk on to the rides between, let's say, 1:20 and 1:40. You cannot arrive before or after your window. They just won't let you. So you can basically walk on. You surrender that ticket and off you go. If you get, let's say it's 9 o'clock in the morning and you want to ride Radiator Springs, which is in California Adventure, and all of the fast passes are gone until 2 in the afternoon, they will allow you to get another fast pass, but it will tell you on your ticket when you're able to get another one. So if you're going into California Adventure and you want to ride Radiator Springs and California Screamin', let's say, no, that's not a good one because it's not a fast pass. Let's say you want to ride Soarin' over California. Those are the two rides that you want to ride. You'll go, you'll get your fast pass for Radiator Springs, and let's say it says that you're coming back at 11. It'll tell you at 10:40, let's say, you can go get another fast pass. So then you would walk over at 10:40 and get your fast pass for Soarin' over California. Those fast passes are fantastic. Any of the rides that have them are going to be the more popular rides. So you're going to want to fast pass those rides, and you want to learn how to use those as quickly and as efficiently as you can. They operate very different in Disney World, so I'm going to let Bethany talk about that. But just know that if a ride is fast passable, you should be fast passing it, because the lines will oftentimes in Disneyland be at least an hour to an hour and a half long minimum on rides that are fast pass, unless you fast pass them. Photo Pass is a new system where they have these photographers all over the park that take special pictures of the kind of big things, like your family and Cinderella's castle, your family with Walt and Mickey in front of Cinderella's castle. Those kind of photogenic places are where you'll see them. They wear these easily identifiable vests. You'll be able to stop. You will get a card and you will get your picture taken, and they're going to load all those digital prints onto your card. You want to buy the photo pass before you go to the parks because it's more expensive after you arrive. You want to buy them at least a week before because it's a discounted price. How the photo pass works is they take the picture, you load it, and then you can pay one price to download them all. It is definitely worth it because they do these special magic pass magic photos now, and you can ask your photographer if they do the magic photos. And what they do is, for example, I have an absolutely amazing one of my little guy in front of the animal safari in Animal Kingdom in Disney World, where he's holding baby Simba. So they will actually put Tinkerbell into your hand, or they will have Stitch coming up out of the ground. You can hold baby Simba, and they put some magic into the picture. And if you get a good photographer, they do some really cute things where the kids like call Tinkerbell into their hand and all of those things. So just know that it is worth it to get the photo pass, and you want to do it before you arrive at the park. So I'm going to talk specifically for a few minutes here quickly about Disneyland. So we are talking not about Disneyland Resort, but the actual park itself of Disneyland. This is the original intact park that opened in 1955. You can do behind the scenes tours at all of the parks, but I think the most magical ones are the ones in Disneyland. And the reason for that is because you actually get to go where Walt was. And me being a huge Walt Disney fan, I love that. I have been in Walt's private apartment in Disneyland. There is a private celebrity only, membership only club in the New Orleans Square part of Disneyland. I've actually been in there as well. I ate lunch in Walt's private apartments. They are incredible tours. You get to go behind the scenes at the rides. You get a little bit of a faster wait. You get onto some of the rides a little bit faster because you're with a tour, and you get to learn some of the magic and the history of Disney. There's some really cool things in Disneyland. There's some really cool urban legends, but there's some truth to a lot of them as well. For example, the fire hall, the apartment above the fire station in Disneyland was Walt's office, and anytime he was in the park, the light was on. When he passed, they keep that lamp on in that window in memory of him. For example, walking down Main Street, you'll see in the asphalt, there's these holes in the asphalt paving up and down Disney that happen to be about the size of a high heel. Well, they are high heels because the day that the park opened, the asphalt wasn't totally dry, and all these women showed up in dresses in the 1950s, and they made holes in the pavement, and they've just been left there. So there's all these really cool things that you would never know unless you actually went on these behind the scenes tours. There are character meals in the parks, and we're going to talk a lot about that in Disney World because they're a little bit more important in Disney World. But obviously, every kid wants to meet Mickey Mouse. They all want to meet Buzz and Woody from Toy Story and all these things. The one thing that I just kind of made the rule when I started taking my son to Disneyland was that we were not waiting in line for characters, because you can wait up to an hour to stand for 3 seconds to get your picture taken with Mickey Mouse. It drives me crazy. There's so many other things we could do. So we plan to do character meals. You pay a little bit more for them, yes, but then you get to interact with the characters that you want. In Disneyland, and I mean Disneyland Resort, I think there are 4 or 5 locations. I'm going to spell them off. So inside the Disneyland park itself, there is the Plaza Inn, which is a birthday party theme for Minnie Mouse. There you will find all Mickey and friends. You'll find Winnie the Pooh and those kind of characters. It's actually in the park itself. Little tip, this is my secret tip. If you are going to book a character breakfast at the Plaza Inn and the park opens at 8 o'clock, what you want to do is book the 7 o'clock seating of the Plaza Inn breakfast, or 7:30, because here's a little magic. They will let you into the park early to go to your reservation. So you can walk down Main Street USA with no one else there to get to that breakfast. That is my tip for you, is to book before the park opens for a reservation at the Plaza Inn so that you can go for breakfast there. Inside California Adventure, the character meal is Ariel's Grotto. I've never been there because I'm allergic to seafood, and it's mostly seafood, but it is down by the Paradise Pier area of the park, and that's where you're going to see a lot of the princesses. I also have a boy who doesn't care about the princesses, so I've never been to that one. Then there is the PCH, so the Pacific Coast Highway Grill inside the Paradise Pier Hotel. That is also Mickey and Friends, but it's kind of a 50s beach theme, surfers theme, and it's really fun. All of the character meals, every 15 minutes, they do something where they call all the kids up and the kids go dance and sing with Mickey and all of that. Every character comes to your meal in a 1-hour rotation. So Pluto, Goofy, Mickey, Minnie, Daisy, Donald, they will all come to your table. They will sign autographs. They will take pictures, all of those things. You don't have to get up and walk around. They come to you. So the PCH Grill is in Paradise Pier. In the Grand Californian in Disney is it's called the Storytellers Cafe, and I think it's one of the more underrated. It is amazing food, but it's all the woodland animal themes. So it's your Chip and Dale, the raccoon from Pocahontas, all of the characters from Song of the South. So it's all of those kind of characters that are there. That's a really fun one, I think, because they get up and they do all these little songs and sing and whatever, and the food is fantastic. Inside the Disneyland Hotel is the Goofy's Kitchen. That one we did the last time we were there for the first time, and it was really amazing too. Every one of those buffet restaurants are buffet. Usually the character meals are buffet. They're not usually table service. Some of the ones in Disney World are, but not in Disneyland. But they all have a kid-sized buffet. They all have Mickey-shaped waffles, and they will all much more cater to children. So I would say on a visit to Disneyland, you need to do at least one character meal. So those are the character meals in Disneyland. The food inside the parks are expensive, I'm not gonna lie. Expensive, and they're not very healthy. There's not a whole lot of healthy choices. Your best bets in Disneyland, if you want healthy, is in Liberty Square and at Flo's V8 Cafe in California Adventure. Those are the places that you're gonna kind of get the best, and I think they're the best bang for your buck as well. The portions are massive in Disneyland. My husband and I usually share a plate, and we usually take water bottles and refill them at the fountains because water in the park is very expensive as well. A few things about the parks. There are some special seasonal parties where you have to buy special tickets. So Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. These are the same sort of things that are in Disneyland as in Disney World. And some, yeah, so Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween and Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. I think they are worth every penny. They close down the park for anyone but people who have their tickets. So you get a special armband. If you don't have an armband and you're still in the park, you can be in the park, but you're not getting on any of the rides. So the lines are shorter. They make it snow in Disneyland and Disney World at Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. I mean, I can't even talk about this without crying. Being on Main Street USA and seeing carolers walking up and down Main Street USA and having it snow is probably the most magical thing you will ever see in your lifetime. So those are only certain times of year. If you really want to go to them, make sure that you schedule your time during that time. I see that Bethany's answering questions. Okay, that's good. She's answering questions while I'm talking. So also Disney has started what's called Run Disney. So if you are a runner and want to enter any of the events that Disney does, they do have where you can run through the park. Their marathon actually starts out in Disneyland, runs through the park. You run up Harbor Boulevard and you actually run through Angel Stadium, which is a huge deal for anyone who's a baseball nut. And then you run back and finish in Disneyland. The Disney Princess Half Marathon at Epcot is amazing. I've been there the day that it ran. I did not run it, but the medals that you get for Run Disney are amazing. Little tip, you don't actually have to run. You just have to finish to get your medal. And there is something called I believe I want to say it's the Dopey Challenge, but I'm not exactly sure. If you run a half marathon on one coast and a half marathon on the other coast, you get a special medal. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you also Run Disney operates on the Disney Cruise Lines, and I'm going to talk about that quickly when we get to Disney Cruise Lines, because they operate there as well. I'm running out of time. Each of the parks have their own sort of nighttime show, nighttime celebration. In Disneyland, it is Fantasmic and the fireworks show. So right now, they used to have this amazing parade called the Electric Light Parade in Disneyland. It's now moved to Disney World. If you are going to Disney World, do not miss the Electric Light Parade. But now Disneyland has a Paint the Night parade, and that is absolutely mind-blowing. I think it's 14 million little LED lights in this parade. It's absolutely insane. But that show and Fantasmic takes place out on the Rivers of America lake, and that show is not to be missed either. So there are not fireworks every night of the year in Disneyland. You need to make sure, if you want to see fireworks, that you know when you're going. Slower times of the year, they do not show the fireworks every night. So we've gone and not seen fireworks at Disneyland. One of the perks of staying in the parks at the Park Hotel, so Paradise Pier, Grand Californian, and Disneyland, is that you can watch the fireworks from the park, from the roof of your hotel, and they pipe the music in. So you can actually watch it on property, not in the park with all the congested people. But once, you need to see the fireworks in the park. They are absolutely amazing. Inside California Adventure, they have a parade, and then they have World of Color. You cannot miss World of Color either. World of Color is absolutely incredible. They use fireworks, they use pyrotechnics, they actually broadcast the movie that they're showing onto water. It's absolutely incredible. There is a special package that you can get, a dining package, where you get a meal ticket and then you get front row seats to World of Color. That is definitely worth it. You pay a little bit more than dinner itself, but you get the front row seating to World of Color. Little tip, they're going to sell you way overpriced glow-in-the-dark objects. So the one thing that I do every time is I go to the dollar store before we leave, and I stock up on cheap glow-in-the-dark bracelets, glasses, hats, whatever I can find. I take a whole bunch with me. I throw them in my purse, shake them all up, and Rhett loves to give them to other people standing in the crowd. And so that's one of the things that we do. It just adds a little bit more magic, and we're not spending $8 on a $1 bracelet in Disneyland. Some of the things to not miss in Disneyland Park itself. I would say Pirates of the Caribbean, which is the last ride that Walt Disney actually, I would say don't miss Space Mountain. I would say don't miss the Matterhorn. We're running out of time here, so I want to go through this as quick as I can, but still cover it. You do have different lands in the park. So there's Main Street USA, and it all goes in a spoke. So the parks that are there, Adventureland, Frontierland. There's soon to be a new Star Wars land that's going in between Frontierland and Fantasyland. You have Mickey's Toontown, which is where you will meet Mickey Mouse inside the parks. Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse are there all the time. Then there's Fantasyland, and then Tomorrowland. And I don't have time to go through any of the rides, so we're going to skip it. But this is your original park. What I would suggest if you are going is to spend some time reading about the original rides, reading a little bit of history about the rides, and making sure, I think if you plan it right, you can do Disneyland in 2 days and get on all the rides that you need to get on. California Adventure was added in the early 90s. It is more of an adventure park. It has more thrill rides in it. It has more shows. So they were a little bit more intentional about building the parks. So this is where you're going to find your Pixar characters are going to be in California Adventure. In California Adventure, it's laid out similar spoken wheel, not quite as simple as Disneyland, but you're going to find the Sunset Boulevard and Buena Vista Street are all laid out, and you're going to find like 30s and 40s and 50s type music and kind of that ambiance. Then you're going to get into Bugs Land, and there's a whole land if your kids are into Bugs Life with Flick and all those Bugs people. Then Cars Land, I think, is the most sorry, just making sure that someone isn't asking me a question here on text. Cars Land is the most magical part of the park after dark. If you get there at the right time, just at dusk, they turn the neon on like they do in the movie Cars. Remember when he's in the Radiator Springs and they turn the neon on the street, and it's really, really magical. It's really beautiful to see. I wouldn't miss that part for anything. Then you get down into Paradise Pier. You got your big roller coasters in Paradise Pier. You do have a midway type. There's some games and stuff down in there. And then you get over into, I want to talk really quickly about Redwood Creek Trails. It is over near the entrance to the Grand Californian. And it is, I think, the most underrated part of that park. And here's why. They put an actual redwood forest in the park. You go in and there's a little scavenger hunt that the kids can do, and they interact with the characters from Brother Bear and the movie Up. But there's all these trails. It's like a big playground, jungle gyms, rope swings, rickety bridges over water. This is the place if you have a kid who needs to burn off some steam, or a kid that's tiring out. This is the place to go. It's quiet, it's secluded. My son loves that part of the park. When it's getting to be about 2 in the afternoon and it's hot and the park's congested, we can go there, it's quiet. We can pick trails to walk on, or he can do a rope swing, he can do a zip line, he can crawl through tunnels, whatever he wants to do. That's the part of the park that you want to go to just to kind of decompress. Most people don't even know it's there, and I think it's an amazing part of the park. They can go and get their little wilderness badges, they go and do a few little things, look for clues, and they can do a little scavenger hunt. Don't miss that part of the park. Okay, so we are really running out of time here, so I am going to get off of Disneyland. That was a lot of information on Disneyland. I skipped a lot of information, and I apologize. Any questions that you have at any time, you can email, message Bethany or I, and we can help you out. I talked before about Downtown Disney, how you do want to go there. So basically that's really quickly an overview of Disneyland. I would say best times of the year to go would be right after school starts in Los Angeles. Make sure that you're avoiding heavy traffic times for school kids in LA. So you don't want to go around spring break. You don't want to go right before school lets in Los Angeles. You do not want to go at Christmas time or New Year's. I'm telling you, not good. Crazy, crazy. And there are all sorts of, and we will post on the group, we will post some links to crowd calendars. So it'll tell you the best days to go. And even within like your week, it'll say start out in California Adventure and go to Disneyland after, or vice versa. You can very easily, you need to buy park hopper passes to go to Disneyland, no question, because you can just walk across the plaza to the parks. So you want to go and maybe start out in Disneyland and go to California Adventure for a couple hours and come back. We do that back and forth all day long. We'll start in Disneyland and cross back and forth 5 or 6 times in a day. So you do want park hoppers. Park hoppers aren't always worth the price in Disney World, but they are definitely worth the price in Disneyland. So I'm going to talk really quickly about Disney Cruise Lines. So a lot of people ask me if Disney cruises are worth it. They are. They definitely are worth the money. But I have cruised, I think, 24 other times with other cruise lines. So if I was going to say to you, you're going to cruise one time in your life and only one time, and you're taking your kids, spend the extra money and go on a Disney cruise. If it's not going to be the only cruise that you ever take in your life, then I maybe wouldn't stress quite so much about it. I will say we took a Royal Caribbean Oasis of the Seas cruise 2 years ago with my husband's family. There's 28 of us. That was an amazing cruise. It's all DreamWorks characters. They have parades. They have character meetups. So there's some really great cruises out there. Disney is definitely amazing. They go above and beyond. There's no question about that. But you know, if you legitimately can't afford, you know, if you were going to make a choice between Disneyland, let's say, and a Disney cruise, I would do Disneyland. I would. Disney has 4 boats. The Magic and the Wonder are the same size. They're smaller boats. The Fantasy and the Dream are larger. If I had a choice, I wouldn't go on the Magic or the Wonder, but they are the only boats that go to Alaska. So if you really want to go to Alaska with Disney, you have to cruise on them. The bigger boats are just a little, there's a few more amenities, things like that. Disney does not own Castaway Cay, the private island in the Caribbean. They are renting it. They're leasing it for 90 years, apparently. They do not own it, but it is only Disney, which is really cool, actually, to go there. 5K Disney run is at Castaway Cay. A few things you want to get if you are considering a Disney cruise. I'm just going to have you write down a couple of points. You want to take something on board to have them autographed. So a pillowcase, a picture frame, a t-shirt. You can take it to the front desk, leave it, and when the last night of your cruise, it'll be left on your stateroom bed with all the character signatures on it. Also, you want to get a veranda room. You want to get a balcony, but they're called family verandas where your kids can't fall off the balcony. So it's specialized kind of room where there's no way that the kids could fall off. The other thing is the doors are so heavy that there's no way that a child under, say, 12 could open the doors, that you don't have to worry about kids. I mean, you don't hear about children falling off Disney cruises, but because of how they're designed. Cruising is not as difficult motion sickness wise as most people think. I'm terrified of water and I get motion sickness in a car. And again, I have cruised like 24 times and I am totally fine with it. Lots of opportunities for meet and greets on those boats. Childcare is amazing on those boats. The kids go into the kids program and they never want to come out. So they are a great way to go on a family vacation and still get mom and dad time. You get a little pager when you drop your kid off at the childcare. So if they need you to come back, they will page you and you can go back. So you can go enjoy your time and not have to worry. You can go to the spa or whatever. Lots of excursions on cruises. I will just say this. If you are going on a cruise, book the excursion with the cruise line, because if you are late getting back to the boat and you are on a cruise line sponsored excursion, they will wait for you. Otherwise, they won't. That boat is leaving and you are stuck in the middle of an island in the middle of nowhere. If you do not book with a cruise excursion, they're usually about $20 more to book with the excursion and the cruise lines, and I think that's worth every penny. If you have any questions about Disney Cruise Lines, please let me know. We just really briefly talked about that. So I'm going to hand this over to Bethany because I've gone way over what I promised I would talk. So she is now going to talk about Disney World, and I'm going to start answering questions on the website. Are you there, Beth?
I am. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you. You just want to click on you and the little arrow above your picture and put present to everyone, and I'm going to mute my phone.
All right. And you can also if you want to turn it so you're not part of the broadcast right now, then your video won't be up there as well. All right. So I just wanted to give a little bit of an overview of Disney World and kind of touch on some of the things that Dee said about Disneyland and how Disney World kind of differs from Disney World, or Disney World differs from Disneyland. So Disney World is really a much different property than Disneyland. Disneyland is the 2 parks, and it's very much surrounded by non-Disney things, whereas Disney World, when you arrive and you drive onto property, it's an incredibly expansive, large area. So if your GPS is saying you're 10 minutes from the gate, you still probably have, you know, another 20 minutes to get to the park and to park and get on transportation. So make sure that you're aware of that as you're arriving at the parks, so that you give yourself enough time. So the Disney World property includes 4 different parks. There is the Magic Kingdom that is similar to the Magic Kingdom park at Disneyland. There is Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom, and I'll touch on each of those briefly. There's also 2 different water parks. If you go during the winter months, just be aware that they usually shut down 1 park at a time to do the renovations annually. So just be aware if you plan on going to the water parks in the winter that more than likely one of them will be closed during your stay, so you won't be able to go to both. There's also a lot more resorts and properties to stay on. There's 3 different levels. There's the value resorts, which are going to be the least expensive, the moderates, and then the deluxe resorts. And so obviously moderates are a little bit more expensive than value, and then deluxe are the most expensive. Unlike Disneyland, I know Dee said it, you know, she recommends if it's a once in a lifetime trip to stay on property at Disneyland. I always recommend, if you can afford to stay on property at Disney World, definitely do it, even if it's one of the value resorts, because there's a lot of perks to staying on property at Disney World. A few of those benefits are the extra magic hours that they have for resort guests only. So they'll open the park an hour early, or keep it open an hour late, only for resort guests. So you'll have a magic band. Let's see if I have one. I maybe didn't bring it over by my computer, but they have an armband at Disney World, and it has a little chip in there. That's how you get into the parks. That's how you get into your hotel. You can use that. You can keep a credit card on record. It doesn't actually save in the band itself, so your credit card can't be hacked that way. But you can pay for your meals. You can pay for things at the stores. It's attached to the PhotoPass, or they call it Memory Maker at Disney World. So when you go on a ride that has a ride photo, it automatically goes into your account. They use that magic band for a lot of things. So that is how they will know if you're a resort guest, so that you can stay in the parks longer or get in earlier. Also, one of the benefits of staying on property is that if you are an on-property guest, you can book your fast passes 60 days in advance. If you are staying off property, you can book those 30 days in advance. Same with dining reservations. You can book, if you are on property, 180 days in advance plus 10. So if you're going for 10 days, 180 days from your first day, you can book all 10 days of your dining reservations, which means your chances of getting the reservations you want at the times you want are much more likely. If you are staying off property, you can book 180 days in advance from each of the days of your stay. So you'll have to get on early in the morning and book each of those days. Also, if you stay on property, you can take advantage of the dining plans, and Disney often offers a few times a year. There's different windows of dates where they offer free dining. If you go during the free dining time, it's definitely something to take advantage of. We had free dining, and we actually upgraded ours so we would have a quick service and a table service every day, and that's how we got to take advantage of a ton of character meals. Also, you save a lot of time because Disney World is so expansive. When you stay on property, you can take advantage of the transportation, and you're not then driving way into the property, having to park, having to pay for parking. I believe parking is like $20 a day, if I'm correct. And so you do save a little bit of money in staying on property, and you save a lot of time. At the end of the day, when you're tired and you just want to go back to your hotel, just walking out and getting on a bus or getting on the monorail or whatever is just it's a lot better than having to go in the parking lot and find your car and do all of that. Okay, so that's a broad overview. I do want to talk a little bit about fast passes because it sounds like fast passes at Disney World are a lot different than the fast pass system at Disneyland. So you can book your fast passes in advance. Highly recommend booking your fast passes in advance. I'm kind of like a super planner. I plan down to like the very minute what rides we'll do at exactly what time. I'm a little bit crazy, but at the very least, if you don't do any of that, definitely book your fast passes. And if you plan on eating on property, definitely book your dining reservations. And yes, you do need to do it 180 days in advance. When we were there was a family that was like, we just want to eat in a restaurant. And every single place they went, they kept turning them away. And there was literally no reservations available. And if they do have openings, it's usually like an hour and a half wait. It's quite ridiculous. So do take the time to do that. It really does make a big difference. Otherwise, you'll be eating all quick service or having to go off property, which takes a significant amount of time to leave, come back, go through the bag checks again, and all of that. Fast passes, as I mentioned, you book those if you stay on property 60 days in advance. You can have 3 per day, but you have to pick which park you're going to book it in. So even if you have a park hopper and you plan on going to both Magic Kingdom and say Hollywood Studios, you can only book fast passes in one of those parks. Once your fast passes, the 3 are used, you can book additional fast passes. It used to be that once your 3rd fast pass is used, you could go to a kiosk within the park and you can book more, or sometimes there's people walking around with iPads, like Disney cast members walking around with iPads that will help you book an additional fast pass. In the next couple of weeks, I just saw an article the other day, they are making enhancements to the My Disney Experience app, and they are going to open that up where you're going to be able to add additional fast passes and change your reservations and stuff right there in the app. Some of the parks have tiered fast pass systems. So Magic Kingdom does not. They're all on one tier, so you can pick 3. Most of the rides have fast passes. Character experiences, if you do a meet and greet, you can get fast passes for those. You can also get fast passes for the parades and the fireworks. In my opinion, I don't think that the fast passes for the parades or fireworks are worth it for the most part, except for maybe Fantastic. Fantastic is sometimes worth it because you can wait quite a while to get into that show at Hollywood Studios. But the parades seating and the fireworks seating at the Magic Kingdom really is not that great to waste a fast pass on. And I'll have some tips at the end for how you can get good seating for those. Let's see. So at Magic Kingdom, they're all on one tier. At Epcot, there are 2 tiers. So for example, Soarin' and Test Track are 2 of the most popular rides at Epcot, and they are on the same tier. So you have to choose Soarin' or Test Track. You can't choose both, and then you have to choose 2 rides off the other tier then. In terms of if you do go, say, to Epcot and you want to do both Test Track and Soarin', the best bet is try and get a fast pass for one of them and then make the other one be your first ride of the day, because that's always the lowest lines is the first ride of the day. So that's where you go first. Hollywood Studios also has tiered fast passes. So for example, you can't book both. I think Toy Story Midway Mania and Tower of Terror, they're on the same tier. So you do have to be aware of which tiers rides are on and pick between them. And then Animal Kingdom does not have tiers. So Hollywood Studios and Epcot have tiers. Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom do not. As Dee said, you can get the park hopper at Disney World. It depends if it's really necessary. We had park hoppers and we did not hop one time, so it was kind of a waste. We were there for 7 days total in the parks, and pretty much once we picked the park, we stayed there because there's a lot of time that it takes to go between the parks because of the transportation. So if it's your first time, I would say maybe not get a park hopper and just plan to have at least 1 day at each park. I do recommend, if you have more than 4 days, that you do go to Magic Kingdom more than once, because you cannot possibly cover Magic Kingdom in 1 day. It's just far too much. So I think the character experiences at Disney World are kind of different than Disneyland. Disneyland, they kind of wander more, whereas the characters at Disney World are scheduled, and a lot of them have like a location. So Tinkerbell, when you go to meet Tinkerbell in the town square, you actually feel like, and my kids thought it was actual, like my husband told them that they were being shrunk down to the size of a little fairy when we went through the door. And then they came in and like there was giant thimbles and it was all themed and it was really spectacular. So they have experiences like that. And those do have some long lines. For some of those, I recommend, there's a guy out there he's called Kenny the Pirate, and he is like the character expert for Disney World. So he's got a website and he's got a little app that you can get and keep on your phone, and he often knows even when there's going to be special appearances of characters. So at Hollywood Studios, they have something called Character Palooza, and you're never going to find it on like the special events list at the parks. You're never going to find it on a park map, but they randomly have Character Palooza events where it's a bunch of characters all appear at one time, and it's often characters that you don't typically see. There's special characters like Jafar and things like that you don't typically see. But Kenny the Pirate, I'm not sure where he gets his information from, but he often knows when those character paloozas are going to happen. So check out his website. He'll tell you where and when and all of the details for all of the characters. I do recommend, though, as Dee said, the character lines are really long. So if you're able to get the free dining, or if you want to make it a priority to do the character dining experiences, they are absolutely fantastic. I think we did a total of 9 or 10 table service meals, and the majority of those were character experiences. They are pricey, but they are absolutely worth it. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to talk about each park, my favorite rides, which rides you need fast passes for, as well as what parades and what nighttime experiences. Keep in mind, a lot of things are changing at Disney World. It was always Walt's philosophy that it would always be changing, it would always be improving, that he always wanted to give people a reason to come back. So I'll outline some of those changes as well. Okay, so at Magic Kingdom, which is my favorite park, there are 2 parades. There is, I think it's Festival of Fantasy or something like that is the parade. It's usually at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Florida time. And that's a newer parade. It's about 2-3 years old, something like that. And it is all like the princesses, different characters all coming through. And there's a big like metal fire breathing dragon at the beginning. So that one's a lot of fun. But my favorite parade is the nighttime parade, which is the Main Street Electrical Parade. And it is the classic one that Dee and I saw when we went to Disney when we were kids. And it's all lights. So it's after dark. It's all lights. It's the same music from when we were kids. It's super magical. We got glow sticks from the dollar store before we went, and we sat with all the families around us, and made hats and ears and different things, all with the glow sticks while we waited for the parade to come. And that was a lot of fun. I definitely recommend not missing that because that is like classic Disney right there. There is the fireworks over the castle. They were offering sometimes 2 Main Street electrical parades, and they've for quite some time offered, especially in busy seasons, 2 fireworks shows a night. But they've recently cut back a lot at Disney World. So if you've gone in the past, you're going to see a lot of changes because of the expense of building Shanghai Disney. They're cutting back a lot at Disney World. So they're down to 1 fireworks show a night. They've cut a lot of characters. But the rumor is that they're introducing new characters, hopefully in the coming months. So just be aware, things are a little bit sparse there right now. Okay, so that's at that's at Magic Kingdom. As Dee said, Pirates of the Caribbean is a must. You have to ride Pirates of the Caribbean. It's awesome. Haunted Mansion is amazing.
We wants the redhead.
That's what we always yell out when our family rides Pirates of the Caribbean. Dee would say Space Mountain. I'm not a fan. I'm not a roller coaster person. However, the newer roller coaster, Seven Dwarf Mine Train, is pretty awesome. You'll probably need a fast pass for that because it is one of the newest rides, or I think the newest ride at Magic Kingdom right now. If you want to ride Peter Pan, even though you wouldn't think that would be like the most popular ride, that is one of the busiest rides at the Magic Kingdom. So if that's really important to you, either do it first thing in the morning or get a fast pass. Space Mountain, Seven Dwarf Mine Train, Peter Pan are probably the busiest ones. You can get away with going at slower times to Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, those types of rides. What I do recommend, this is another tool, and you want to write this down because this tool changed my entire trip. It is called touringplans.com. The website's amazing. You can sign up for a subscription, and it's only $12.95 for the entire year, so you can have an annual subscription. And you can go in there and pick all the rides you want to ride, the exact date that you're going to go, what park you're going to be at, and you can click optimize, and it'll tell you which rides you should get fast passes for, which order you should do them in. My husband thought I was crazy when I was planning our trip because I over planned and I had touring plans for every day. But after the first day, after a couple hours, he realized there were tons of people waiting in line, but we weren't those people. We did not wait, I think, more than 15 minutes for a ride. The only time that we waited was an hour to meet Baymax because he had just started a meet and greet at Hollywood Studios that week. So the rest of the time we were they use science and all of that. They keep track of wait times on touringplans.com, and they know the best times to ride which rides based on historical data. The other thing is they have a wait times thing on the app, and it is far more accurate than the My Disney Experience wait times. When I was at Disney World, I was comparing the two, and the My Disney Experience is almost never right. I don't know why, because that's their own system, but touringplans.com was more accurate. Some of the other things you're going to see in the Touring Plans app is they have menus for every restaurant. They have pricing for every restaurant. So if you're in the park and you're hungry and want to get a quick service meal, instead of walking all the way over there to check out the menu, you can check it out on the app. Make sure that there's something on the menu your kids will like before you get over there. There's also a live chat feature with a bunch of Disney addicts like Dee and I. Oftentimes they're in the park on the chat feature. If you are in the park and you message and say, hey, I'm over by Space Mountain and I really want a Dole Whip. Where's the closest place to get a Dole Whip? They'll respond pretty quickly. Or I'm vegan. What's the best restaurant for vegan meals? You can ask anything you want, and these people are all people like you and I who just love Disney, and they will help you out. Okay, so that's the Magic Kingdom. Moving on over to Epcot. When I was young, I kind of thought Epcot was boring. I didn't bother going into the World Showcase. I didn't really give it a chance. I thought Dee was kind of lame for spending all her time in the World Showcase. But my perspective completely changed when I took my boys there in 2014. So at the front, when you first walk in and there's the big silver ball at Epcot, at the front is where the Innovations, I think they're called. There's the rides up there. You're going to find Test Track up there. And then there's the lagoon in the center. And then the World Showcase surrounds it. So I think there's something like 13 countries. I could be wrong. But you start, if you go and start on the right, you'll start in Canada and work your way around to Mexico. If you start on the left, you'll start in Mexico and work your way around. So you can go either way. There are things the kids very much enjoy walking through the World Showcase and seeing the different shops and restaurants, and there's rides throughout as well. I haven't eaten at a lot of the restaurants in the World Showcase, but the ones I have eaten at are very, very good. And for my kids, I actually made them I designed these little passport books ahead of time with each of the countries. And so they were kind of unique. Yes, you can buy them at Disney World, but anytime you do something more unique, the cast members give you more attention. So I designed each of us different t-shirts for different days to match like which characters we're going to meet or which parks we were going to. We got a lot of attention for those. I designed like custom autograph books, got a lot of attention from the characters for those, and then the passports as well. When we went through the cast members from each country, like gave them a little bit more attention. They'll teach your child how to say their name in their language. All of the cast members who work at the countries in the World Showcase are actually from those countries. So it's kind of cool, a chance to meet people from all over the world. They also have kid stops in each place. So when we were there, they could color Perry the Platypus in each of the countries. So that was pretty unique as well. The most popular rides at Epcot are definitely Soarin' and Test Track. They're both busier. You definitely want to try and get a fast pass for one of those. They're on the same tier, so you can't get both in the same day. I also really enjoy the land. The land is a really cool ride. So Disney has their own like greenhouse, and you can ride through and you can see them growing everything. And then you can go up to the Garden Grill, which is one of my favorite restaurants in Epcot. I know it's one of Dee's favorite restaurants as well. It's a character meal. And Chip and Dale, and then Mickey, and I think Pluto, all come out to the table. It's a family-style meal, and it's like delicious, like turkey, mashed potatoes, and it's all grown right there at Disney. And it actually spins in a circle, which you would think doesn't sound very appealing while you're eating, but it moves very slowly, and it just changes what you're able to see. It changes the background as you move around the restaurant. I think I covered there is no parade at Epcot. There is my favorite nighttime show is Illuminations. At Epcot, it's absolutely amazing. I don't think I've ever watched it without like getting teary-eyed. It's very moving. What they do is they bring this giant earth into the center of the lake, and it all is this light show on the lake. I recommend watching from, if you're looking at the World Showcase, there's a little spot where you can see all of the countries, because they actually involve the countries, which I didn't know when I watched from another location. There's lights that shoot up from different countries throughout the show as well. So you get the full experience of those. And that usually is at 9 o'clock nightly at Epcot. I think that's everything I needed to cover for Epcot, unless you have anything you wanted to add. All right. I'll talk about Animal Kingdom next. So if you are going in the summer, be aware that Animal Kingdom is the hottest park. I don't know why. They keep, you know, all the animals are there. It's very, very, very hot. Animal Kingdom, a lot of people think it's, I've heard people say, oh, it's a half-day park, but I think you can go and you can fully spend the full day there. It is the park that has like the big tree of life in the center of it. If you're looking at what the icons are, there's a few things you do not want to miss at Animal Kingdom. You definitely want to check out the safari if you've never done that before. I recommend doing that first thing in the morning because the animals are just fed. It's not super hot yet. That's when you're going to see most movement. And just be aware that like obviously you're safe, but there's not like cages in glass. It's like you're on a real safari, and they keep the animals apart from you. But there are times that you may actually encounter some animals. When I was riding safari, there was a little baby giraffe that came up to the back of our safari vehicle and was chewing on the broom, and they actually had to go get the game warden to come get the baby giraffe, and it all stopped for a little bit. So that was kind of exciting. My favorite show at any of the parks is in Animal Kingdom, and that is the Lion King show. It is spectacular. I cry every single time I watch the Lion King show. It's acrobatics and songs, and just it's very entertaining. It's quite amazing. So you do not want to miss the Lion King show, so pay attention to when those show times are. You could get fast passes for that. Make sure you do arrive, even if you have a fast pass, like 15 minutes before. There's coasters there that I don't really do. What is it called? I don't remember what it's called. There's a really big roller coaster there that everyone says is really thrilling, but since I don't do them, I don't do that one. And then the other ride I highly recommend is Dinosaur. So it's pretty awesome. You go in this little Jeep time machine.
The roller coaster in Animal Kingdom is Everest.
Okay, yes. Everest. With Dinosaur, you go in a little Jeep in a time machine, and they actually take you back to the prehistoric era. It is a little bit frightening if you have younger kids, not in terms of how the ride goes, but there are big dinosaurs that are like animatronic coming down close to you, so it can be a little bit frightening. And there's proof of that because they have a ride photo, and you don't expect it coming, so you get to see how actually terrified you were. All right, and then I think there are no parades at Animal Kingdom. However, I believe starting in April, for the first time in a while, there's actually going to be a nighttime show. It looks pretty spectacular. They haven't released a ton of information that I've seen yet, but that is going to be a nighttime show, which also may mean that Animal Kingdom stays open later. Typically, Animal Kingdom closes at 5. Sometimes they will stay open till 7, but with the new nighttime show, I believe they're going to be staying open later. That is really, well, no, there's 2 other things. So there's also like areas where you can, there's walking trails. So there's the Maharaja, which is in, I believe that is in Asia, and then the Pangani is in Africa. So those are like, you know, walking through, and it's like a little zoo, and you can see all the animals. And then there's also, what is the outpost called? You can ride the little train out the conservation station. That is where you can do a super cool, fun activity. They just started a new one called the Lion Guard, where it's like a little scavenger hunt type thing that you can do throughout Animal Kingdom. And you can become part of the Lion Guard when you do all of them and you meet all the checkpoints. All right, the last park I want to cover is Hollywood Studios. It used to be one of my favorite parks, but it has changed quite a bit over the years. And right now, if you are going to Disney World and you only have 3 days and you have to pick a park to skip, right now, I think Hollywood Studios is the park to skip. because of the fact that there is so much shut down and so not nearly as many rides to do and not nearly as many experiences. They are doing significant changes to Hollywood Studios. They're bringing a greater Star Wars presence. They've already done that. You can now meet Chewbacca. You can meet Kylo Ren. So there's some cool new experiences there. If you have kids who like Star Wars, the Jedi Training Academy is pretty cool. If you want to do Jedi Training Academy, make sure you research before you go, because they often change. You cannot just show up at, say, the 11 o'clock and say, I'd like my kid to be part of the Jedi Training Academy. You have to go first thing in the morning, and they book up for the entire day. They have to be between, I believe, 4 and 12 years old. And they put them through like little 15-minute little class. You have to show up, I think, 30 minutes before the show they're going to be part of. They each get the Jedi robes, and they give them a lightsaber, and they teach them how to use the lightsaber. And then they get to go out on stage, and they get to fight. It used to be just Darth Vader, but now there is I believe her name is Second Sister or something like that, from one of the new Star Wars cartoons. So there's a female that they can fight as well. So that's kind of fun. And then you get pictures and video of the experience as well. They'll give you a little card for that. A lot has changed. So if you went to Hollywood Studios, say, years ago, there's no more Lights, Motors, Action Stunt Show. There's no more Backlot Tour. And I think they're closing in the next couple weeks. I don't think it's closed yet, but they are closing the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids playground. So that makes me sad. There's a lot of fun memories from that playground, but they're closing that down. If you like thrills, Rock and Roller Coaster, which of course I never do, Tower of Terror, which someday I'm going to grow brave enough to do Tower of Terror. That's the dropping one. Those are some of the most popular rides. The most popular ride in all of Disney World is Toy Story Midway Mania. So you are sometimes looking at 3-hour wait times for that. You absolutely need to get a fast pass for that. Some of the construction that they are doing, so watch for ride closures on that, is they are adding a third track because it's so busy. So once they expand to that third track, maybe you won't be seeing such wait times at Toy Story Midway Mania. They do not have any parades at Hollywood Studios, but they have a nighttime show called Fantasmic, and it is in like the grandstand area, and it is like Fantasmic Mickey. It's been years since I've seen it, but there's some villains and Fantasmic Mickey, and it's a pretty cool show. You can get actual dining packages, so you can book at Hollywood and Vine, or I think it's Mama Rosa's, and you actually get your dinner and then preferred seating at Fantasmic as well. So I've heard that those are definitely worth it if you want to go that route. They are adding a new fireworks show or light show at Hollywood Studios in the next, I believe it should be April, and it is a Star Wars themed light show. It is not going to be where Fantasmic is located. It is going to be in the central area of Hollywood Studios where the Big Blue Hat was. They've now taken down the Big Blue Hat. It exists no more. So it's going to be above the Chinese Theater. So the Great Movie Ride, and it looks like the Chinese Theater. That is where the light show, I believe, is going to appear. So that's coming soon, and I'm excited about that. What they're adding to Hollywood Studios is a significant Star Wars theme. They're also adding a lot like Pixar Place, so it's going to be more like what they said at the California Adventure Park. They're bringing more of that to Hollywood Studios. The rumor is they're going to be changing that name to Disney Studios, so it's an all-inclusive, the different divisions of Lucasfilms, Pixar. I believe starting in 2020, they'll be able to incorporate Marvel into the parks because that's when Universal's rights to in-park Marvel is. So We're probably going to see more superhero stuff coming in 2020, so that's kind of exciting. And then one last thing, a ride that I love that I recommend you don't miss is the Great Movie Ride. It's just classic. It's fun. And what most people don't realize, and Dee didn't realize this till I told her, is during busy times, there's actually 2 different sides to the ride. So on the slower times and most of the year, you're going to get on the ride and you're only going to ride the gangster side. So it's all going to be gangsters. But when it's really busy or when they randomly decide to open up that side, there's also a cowboy side of the ride. So I was super excited when we went in November 2014 and I realized we were on the cowboy side and I'd never experienced that before. So that's kind of fun. Okay, so that covers the 4 parks. I did want to mention there is another super exciting thing coming to Animal Kingdom. They're building Avatar Land right now, and that's subjective whether you think that's super exciting or not. I think that whatever Disney does great. So it's definitely going to be worth checking out, in my opinion. When they decided to do it, they were hoping to rival with Harry Potter World over Universal. I don't think they're going to accomplish that, but I still think Avatar Land looks to be pretty cool. And if you've been to Animal Kingdom before, the area that that's going to be in is where the Lion King show used to be, where you would walk down and you would meet Pocahontas and go to the Lion King show. That's all now closed off, and that is where Avatar Land is going to be. A few notes about transportation at Disney World, and Dee, you can let me know if I need to like wrap it up real quick, but there are a few options of transportation. You can ride from the resorts, you can ride buses to, you would ride a bus to Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios. That's the only way to get transportation there. Magic Kingdom, you can ride either the ferry or the monorail. You can ride a boat over to Epcot or the monorail. So the monorail goes to all the deluxe resorts, Magic Kingdom and Epcot. Disney World has a Disney Springs, just like Dee mentioned in Disneyland. They have just done a huge enhancement to Disney Springs. There's a big parking garage there. I will mention that you cannot go from Disney Springs to like Magic Kingdom or Epcot because a lot of people were parking there to avoid the parking fees and then going to the parks. But a little trick for you, do a little research and find out which hotel is the closest to that park. So for example, you can park at Disney Springs and check out Disney Springs, then you can hop on a bus over to the Polynesian and it's a quick walk from the Poly over to the ferry, or the monorail arrives right at the Poly. Same with the boardwalk if you're going to Epcot. So do a little research for that. Let's see, what else have I not covered? Oh, Dee mentioned the special events. So the Mickey's Very Merry Christmas, Mickey's Not So Scary. I just wanted to mention I went to both of those. The Mickey's Not So Scary is amazing. I loved it 10 times more than the Very Merry Christmas. Very Merry Christmas was cool, but the Mickey's Not So Scary is one of the only times they will let you dress up as an adult. So that was super fun. The event starts at 7 o'clock, but even if you don't have tickets that day, you can go to the park at 4. So you have basically 4 till midnight. And they, in past years, they had the 24-hour day. I just read an article. I think they canceled it for sure at Disneyland and possibly Disney World. But that is a pretty cool event as well. Let's see. So I told you about my favorite tools. I want to give you just a few special tips of things that I read on message boards before I went and we did on our trip that was awesome. Do yourself a favor and buy yourself a thing of Body Glide. It is what runners use to like prevent chafing and that kind of thing. Put that on your feet every morning before you put your socks on, and you will avoid blisters. If you get a blister, put the Body Glide over top, and it helps the blister way more than a Band-Aid or anything else. A little trip that we found out when we were there, if you are wanting to watch a parade at Magic Kingdom, plan that around when you're going to grab a meal. Go to Pico Stills and get yourself a meal, and although they don't have it on the sign, you can ask for it to go. And then you go outside and you sit on the little walkway with your food and you eat while you're waiting for the parade, and the parade comes right along that route. So it's like perfect. The biggest and best tip I can ever give you for whether it's Disneyland, Disney World, is always, always, always make sure to be there when the park opens, or like 30 minutes before the park opens. The opening shows are awesome. You don't want to miss those. Plus, you will do more in the first 2 hours at the park than you will in the entire rest of the day. So a lot of people stroll into the park at, say, at 11 a.m. That's when things get really busy. So if you are there first thing, you're going to get a lot more done. Is there anything else I didn't cover, Dee? Oh, should I talk about Memory Maker at all? It's very similar to how it is in Disneyland. I believe now it's like $169 for Memory Maker. That'll work for your entire trip, and it's awesome. As Dee said, there's like the magical pictures. There's Disney photogs everywhere. There's the ride photos, and it all senses with your Magic Band, and it all goes right into your account. There's also ride videos on, like, Tower of Terror has a video. There's a few others. And they even have magical videos now. So when they were taking our picture, we thought they were just taking our picture. And we went to look later. It was a video of, like, Baymax, like, rolling up and photobombing us. So it was pretty cool. And one last cool thing that is coming to the Magic Kingdom, which I don't know if Dee knows about this yet. There are those who love It's a Small World, and there are those who don't love It's a Small World. But they just added something pretty cool. So when you're leaving the ride at Magic Kingdom, where it used to say, like, adios and sayonara and goodbye in all the languages, they have digitized those. And so they will sense with your Magic Band who you are, and they will say goodbye to you in many languages, and your name will appear as well. So it's kind of a custom, personalized experience at the end of that ride, which is pretty cool. That is all I really wanted to cover. Let me check the Facebook group to see if there was any questions that I missed. Oh, one last thing. Jenny mentioned Epcot, is if you have the opportunity to go to Epcot without children, there is a cool activity called Drinking Around the World. So you can start in one country and get a unique drink in each of the countries, and just make sure that if you do that, you plan on staying on property or you have transportation, because you definitely will not want to be driving back to your hotel at the end of that night. That is everything I wanted to cover. Dee, were there any questions that I missed while I was talking?
I don't think so. I think I covered them. I just really quickly want to say a couple of things. First of all, there is a scavenger hunt in every park. So Disneyland, California Adventure, Magic Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, Epcot, and Animal Kingdom all have an educational component scavenger hunt in them. The one in the Animal Kingdom is the best. And then the Epcot Center one is pretty cool too. It's a Phineas and Ferb type thing. They get a little phone. They have to go through the park and solve clues. It's very, very cool. It's very interactive. That one, when you actually go in and you accomplish your mission, what ends up happening is different things pop up actually inside the pavilion that you're in. In the Animal Kingdom, you actually have to go through and you have to You have to learn something about each location that you're in. So you have to learn something about animals. You have to learn something about recycling or whatever it is. That one's really, really neat. And they get these little badges. It used to be based on Wilderness Explorer from Up, but it recently has changed to this new Lion Guard. But just know that if you're going to the parks more than one day, because you do in Disney World want more than one day in each park, if possible, you can then do these scavenger hunts. And they are also in California Adventure and Disneyland as well, but they're a little bit better in Disney World. Disney World is, so I get asked this a lot, which park do I want to go to? If you have young children, especially because of our location, the flights are fast and cheap. You can leave at 6 in the morning and you can be in the park in Disneyland at 11:30. If you have younger children, people always ask me too, what's the perfect age to take your kid? I took my son for the first time when he was 18 months old. In fact, I think he was actually 16 months old. So I think that young kids enjoy it, old kids enjoy it. There's something for everyone. But if you have younger kids, I would say Disneyland. Disneyland has a little bit more of the magic of Walt there, because Walt had already passed away by the time that Disneyland opened, or sorry, Disney World opened. And so there isn't as much Waltness, if you will, in Disney World. The reason that Walt even built Disney World is that he felt really constricted by the size of Disneyland. One of the things that frustrated Walt very much was the fact that you could go and you could see a cast member from Tomorrowland walking through Fantasyland, and he never wanted to see that. So he built a whole city underneath Disney World, so you never have any interruption of the magic in Disney World, where you do a little bit in Disneyland. But again, that's the only park that Walt really worked on was Disneyland. So if you got young kids, if you have 2 weeks, you want to go to Disney World. You can, I don't think you could, I would be Disneyed out probably at the end of 2 weeks in Disneyland, and I'm a big Disney nut. 4 days I think is about right. 3-4 days in Disneyland is perfect. 2 days in where you concentrate on Disneyland, 2 days where you concentrate on California Adventure. Any longer than that, if you're going to take a 2 or a 2.5 week vacation, go to Disney World. On top of the parks that we mentioned, there's 2 water parks, Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach, which are both amazing. You can get a special pass that allows you to go to the water parks every day. There's Disney Quest, which is a 3-store arcade. There's so much to do in that Disney Springs. There's a full-time permanent Cirque du Soleil show in Disney Springs. There's adult nightclubs. There's amazing stuff in Disney. Disney World is kind of Disneyland on crack. So if you want to go to Disney World, you are going to go and spend the time. One of the things that when we went with my husband's family, one of the things that frustrated them was how much time you spent on transportation. That's never really bothered me because I know how to get around really quickly, but you don't have to buy Park Hopper in Disney World. You don't have to go park to park. So I would suggest that you just concentrate on spending 2 or 3 days in Epcot, for example. The other thing I really briefly want to touch on is the fact that they are opening parks all over the world. So there is Disney Paris. Disney Paris, if you're going to go, is a 1-day park. I've never been, but I've heard it's a 1-day park. Some of the cool things about Disney Paris, very condensed. The castles are different in each park. I will say this. Disneyland is Tinkerbell's castle. And no, it is not. I just lied to you. Bethany, correct me. Is it Tinkerbell's castle or is it Sleeping Beauty's? It's Sleeping Beauty's castle. I can't hear you.
Okay, sorry. Which park?
Disneyland.
At Disneyland is Sleeping Beauty. At Disney World is Cinderella.
Sleeping Beauty. And Disney World is Cinderella. Sorry, I don't know where I got Tinkerbell from. That was total brain fart moment. Sleeping Beauty's castle is Disneyland. Disney World is Cinderella's castle. You will notice that they are very different castles. In Paris, it is Belle's castle from Beauty and the Beast. The castle is different in Hong Kong and in Tokyo. Both Hong Kong and Tokyo are also 1-day parks. They're opening a park, a Shanghai Disney park in China, and they're opening one in the Philippines, I've heard. I just read that like earlier today, that they're opening one in the Philippines. So those parks are, I mean, really, are we going to go to Paris and spend time in Disney? I kind of don't think so. I think that would kind of be insane personally. But if you're in Paris long enough to take in Disney, that's cool. Then I really quickly want to talk about Aulani. Aulani is the Hawaiian resort. I have not been, but it is supposed to be absolutely spectacular. From the moment you arrive to the moment you leave, it is Disneyland without the rides, basically. It's right on the beach in Waikiki. The water is supposed to be amazing. The food is amazing. It's very Hawaiian in the sense that there's lots of tiki shows. There's lots of things like that. If you've been to the Polynesian resort in Disney World, it's kind of that resort made bigger and in Hawaii. And then very quickly, Adventures by Disney. So Disney does everything spectacular. They do these trips all over the world. You can go anywhere, basically, and do an Adventures by Disney. So they do a lot more of family, in-depth. So when you go to, you know, Germany, for example, you go and you actually tour the castles and you actually have very German experiences, but it's with a Disney guide. So I've heard that the safari one is absolutely spectacular. They do places like Machu Picchu, Athens. They do all through Asia. So those are our chances to go and get that really best of the best of Disney in a travel that is not a Disney park, if that makes any sense. So again, just to recap very quickly, if you have young kids and it's your first trip, I would recommend Disneyland. I would do, you know, 3 to 4 days. If you're going to go, there's lots of things to do in Southern California. Like I said, we oftentimes fly into Orange County and out of San Diego so that we can do that nice drive. If you're going to go to Disney World, you're going to take your kids, you're going to go a little bit longer. You're going to go 10 days to 2 weeks. You're going to have older kids usually in Disney World. Do not miss Epcot Center. People, used to be called Epcot Center, it's just Epcot now. People will often tell you that it's the park that you can avoid. It is not a park that you want to avoid. You want to go to Epcot Center, particularly if it's raining. There's lots of things to do indoors. There is lots to do around the Orlando area as well. If you want to go, the Cape Canaveral, so NASA Space Center, the Kennedy Space Center is not very far. They do have Universal Studios both in Orlando and in Anaheim. It's been a long time since I've been to either one of those parks, but it's my understanding that the one in Orlando has just opened the Harry Potter World, and the one in Anaheim is opening a Harry Potter World very soon. So those are some big things if you're a Harry Potter fan, which I am. You're going to want to hit up those parks. Both parks also, you can do city passes. You might want to write this down. Costco city passes. You can get passes to the parks. They have some restrictions to them, but you can get these city passes where you're paying kind of one price and you're getting SeaWorld, you're getting San Diego Zoo, you're getting Disneyland and Universal Studios in Southern California. In Orlando, you're going to get Disney World, you're going to get SeaWorld, you're going to get Universal Studios, and I think they're Orlando Zoo. I'm not exactly sure. But city passes are a great option. Just know that there's some restrictions, so you want to make sure that you know what you're actually buying. We buy them, and just morally we object to SeaWorld, so we never use the SeaWorld part, but they're still worth it, even not going to the park. Really quickly, is there anything else? I think that's pretty much it. I know that there's a few of you that are asking really specific questions about your specific trip. I don't mind helping answer those questions at all. The one thing that I will say is I have an absolutely amazing travel agent. Her name is Mary Kramer. I will list her page on that group thread so we can all see it. I have never, and I travel a lot. I've traveled all over the world. I have done a ton of traveling, and I do not ever book any trip at all now without speaking to Mary, not only to Disney but to anywhere else. Because she's a US-based travel agent, her flights are not that great. Usually within Canada, we need to book our own flights, but the rest of it, Mary is absolutely amazing at. Cruises, Disney cruises, whatever you need. I will post her information. She's also a great sounding board because she lives in Southern California. Well, she lives in Northern California right now, but she's moving. to Southern California. She is amazing at helping you figure out the best times to go. If you have a kid who loves Peter Pan, for example, you know that, you know, Thursday afternoon, whatever, she's an absolutely invaluable resource for that. I think we've covered everything. If you have questions, go ahead and post them on the thing. Oh, I will say this. If you are going to Disney World, Bethany is holding up. I'm going to make her the screen right now. You want to order this book. Sometimes you can find them at Costco, and you can order directly from their website. The Passporter's Guide, you cannot do Disney World without this guide. Trust me, trust me, trust me. You want that guide if you are doing Disney World. There is no such guide for
every year. So make sure to buy a correct one, because things change.
Yes, there is not really one for Disneyland. Frommer's does one. The Lonely Planet does one. But it talks about every single hotel room in the park, what it looks like, how many people it sleeps. Every restaurant, every ride has a rating, and they're all reviewed, and they're reviewed by adults, teens, and children. So if you're going with young kids and you're wondering about a restaurant in Disney World, a child that age has reviewed it, is going to tell you all about it. So you want that guide if you're going to Disney World. All right, so that is our 2 hours. We have talked a lot. Hopefully we've answered your questions. If not, go ahead and continue to post them on the group. The other thing is that this will be up on YouTube for a couple of days. We're not going to leave it up forever because we do want people to come to the next one. But if you have questions, please let us know. Thank you for coming out. This was our first Smarty Skirts class done via Google Hangouts. Our upcoming Smarty Skirts classes, Carol Thompson is going to do a freshen your face makeup class. I want to say April 7th. Then we have another special needs mom class with Rachel Martins, who is absolutely fantastic. She's doing a Google Hangouts in May with us. Also on the 16th of April, we have live classes in Calgary. It's very important. If we want to keep these live classes, we need to have people come out. So we have a cooking with your kids class. We have a make and take with essential oils, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. You're going to walk away with 4 bath and body products made with essential oils that day. And then we also have somebody help me out. There's another one that day. It'll come to me. Oh, Do I Need a Will, which is a very important class with Christina Laughlin. So 3 live classes in April, and there are some Google Hangouts coming up. There are also, I'm about to make an announcement this week for our first live classes in Dawson Creek. Actually, we had our first class last week, Women in the Driver's Seat, but actual Smarty Skirts classes, our first ones will be in Dawson, and they will be announced soon. So love you guys. Thank you so much for coming, and hopefully we answered your questions. Have a magical evening.
Thanks, everyone.